Call this meeting to order at 6:30.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
I want to see it in a minute. I want to look at it.
Yeah,
There are some things we need to add to it. Information on buying salt. I can explain when you get to the business.
I asked the last meeting for the police to go on there again. It's not on here.
well, Loretta's not gonna be here this evening. Would you like to do it when she's here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we would do it next time.
I don't wanna know why she's not here.
Because she wasn't on the agenda and she asked if there's any reason she would need to be
Right.
here, and I said. And I
Last
said I
meeting,
didn't
I
think so.
asked for her to be put on the agenda.
Well, I'm sorry that I forgot that, Bob. I'm a little flat out right now.
Okay, so much.
And if you had emailed, then you could have emailed me and let me know that, but you don't.
No, I don't.
So,
But I have
This
a
is-
telephone.
well, you could have called me then to make sure it was on there.
Hey Beth. Hey Don. Yeah, I mean, Patrick, thank you very much for being, and Stuart for taking on a lot, well. Victoria is not here and we don't have a replacement. I'm drowning in emails and I think we're all out today. So I don't think we should get angry with each other about, I think Stuart is, Patrick is doing what none of us wanna do right now, right? Like, I don't wanna fill in for unpaid position, like it's more than any of us really.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's one more thing on there's a driveway permit that came in from, voicemail. It's not an application at this point, so
For the access permit.
that should also be on should at least bring it up.
Well, he was just looking for information, right? So we can,
Well, sounds like he needs to be told that there's a process.
yeah,
I did not respond to him. So we've got, two changes so far. We're gonna move the dates to
and
next
I
week.
don't think that, I thought I put it on the agenda, but I did not, the follow-up for Concola. I figured out what that was. Last meeting, he was asking, he needed a letter for reimbursement. We thought it was from the town. And that's not what it's not. Actually, what it's about.
Yeah, okay, okay, yep.
And that's on this agenda.
I know it's not.
It needs to
I
be.
thought it was, but it needs to be.
So yeah, we got roadside mowing on there. How about street painting and sweeping? I want to update on that, is that? I don't,
That's on my list.
we add that to the agenda.
Okay,
Yep.
How about the town financial officer?
Yep, we've got new hire updates. So that's part of that.
36. And I got North Road project.
So Stuart, you want to encapsulate that in an amendment, in a proposed
okay,
amendment?
so, amendments to this agenda are salt contract, driveway permit, Moncala, painting, sweeping, and North Road. That's gonna be an amendment to the agenda. Need a second?
No?
What's that?
Do you want police or no?
No, because she's not here.
Second one, yeah.
Second, I'll second that amendment to the agenda.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the amendment to the agenda? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And now all those in favor of the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Public comment, anyone here for public comment? No hands up? All right. Farmers market and church.
Okay, so I have talked to both parties, and the way I understand it, the churches had a long-standing, time to use the parking spaces in front of the green for 10 to noon. Farmers market has, I don't know, let's say, made an agreement with, the town administrator, but she's no longer here, so we can't ask her what happened. But after hearing both sides, it sounds like if we can work together, maybe the farmers market can move to or try to focus on being on the Railroad Street side of the green, then people who are, gonna be parking for the farmers market will be looking to be closer to the stands, and the church is on the Chelsea Street side, so try to keep those spaces open for the church's need. Do you guys think that'll work, or?
I'm not sure, and I'm thankful, really, that there's a willingness to talk and work together on this, but I'm not sure because a lot of Sundays, people are already, the parking lot is already full. And we've been told by the pediatric clinic that we can't park there because they sometimes have doctors on the call, so guess I'm not sure. Like last Sunday, we had, almost 80 people in church. We need a lot of parking, and so I'm not sure. I mean, I'm willing to give it a try. Maybe we try it for a week and, two, and see how it goes, possibly.
Well, let me just say something. I'm a member of Red Door Church. I'm not one that part of the administration, and we're really happy to have the farmers market back. It's great. We totally want to support the farmers market. And it's great that it's going on a weekend and not on Thursday night. I think that's a great decision. But the ladies after church, we were all worried about parking. And not just for us, but for folks that want to come to the farmers market. Because if we take up all the spots, plus you guys are setting out, so the farmers take up whatever's left on the other side. I don't know how people are going to shop. Unless you're only expecting foot traffic, which I think is probably not what you're expecting. I assume you're expecting people to come in their cars as well. You're not gonna get as much business if you are in that time slot. And that is something that I'm just gonna throw out there. I have no say in your decision-making, but I do think that you should reconsider the time slot. Sunday's fine, it's just maybe later in the day on Sunday would be better to sort of stagger.
Well, the farmers market does run till what, 2 or 3?
Yeah, is it okay to respond?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the planned time for the farmer's market is 10 to 1, but with the farmer's market, it's very different from church services where people don't show up for the start of it, in mass, you know, like you have to be on time for the start of services, but you can wander into the farmer's market at any point between 10 and 2, so we're really not expecting like a super heavy turnout pre-10 AM, and where we are planning to be on the other side of the green.
Yeah.
So we're planning to have vendors park at the bank lot on Railroad. And then I feel really confident that's gonna work out great, and part of our thinking was it'd be so great for people to be able to walk out of church and join the farmer's market. And that was, you know, we want it to be as inclusive as possible, and an event that's really about bringing together all members of the community, so having it be on a weekend when people are not at work. It was our thinking, but I feel a little confused about why parking is an issue, because like I went downtown on Sunday at 10 AM just to check out the situation, and there was plenty of parking, and I took photos, and like all of Chelsea Street on the green side was open and Railroad Street was open. So I feel, you know, in front of the church, it's all parked up, but I don't feel that we're gonna have a conflict, because I think people are gonna come at 11, and then everyone who's here for church services will be parked, your parking will be secure. And if it takes people a little longer to park to the farmer's market, then, you know, maybe that's our error, but.
Just so you guys know, we don't leave that building ever until 11:40. So, you know, people aren't moving their cars to go home, and that's if nobody goes down and socializes. And a lot of folks like to have coffee and talk afterwards. I usually don't leave until 1.
I just think that there's enough parking for all of us, like, and that's my experience of going downtown at that time on a Sunday. And I think that also you guys will be parked already by the time people
definitely be
arrive
parked
for the farmer's
already.
market, so I don't think that will be impinging on your, like, you know, on your community's ability.
Well, neither the bank or the post office are gonna be open. So both of those businesses have some parking spaces you can use. It'd be good if you could encourage people that are there for the market, that are gonna park for long term. If they could use Railroad Street, like down towards the library, that would take care of a lot of the filling up the spaces that are, you know, the ones they're gonna be there for the whole market.
And so we were sending the vendors all a parking plan and telling them to park on Railroad Street. And the vendors are the only people who would be there before 10 AM. So those are the only people who would possibly be kind of coming to park at the same time. And everybody else would just be arriving little by little. And I mean, hopefully a lot of people will be arriving and looking for parking. As you know, like in recent years, the farmer's market hasn't been super well attended. So we're really like trying to bolster it, but there's not an expectation of like, well, people coming in.
The other thing is the market is only gonna be every other Sunday. It's not gonna be every Sunday. So that might
Joe's got a hand
help.
Joe?
Thank you. I don't really know what we're talking about here. Is this a farmer's market that I heard rumor of was put on by Bale?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the Royalton Farmers Market, but instead of farmers having to manage the market, Bale is doing the management, so farmers can just come and vend.
and I don't know who's just spoke. I work for the paper, so it's good to know who's speaking, and you who just
Sorry.
spoke.
My name's Elena Greenlee. I'm the new executive director at Bale.
Elena Greenlee.
You might wanna spell it for her, just to
GREENLEE.
put your.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Sorry.
thank you. The last thing I want to know is, I've never really heard before it said right out loud that anyone had any ownership over any parking on the green. And I'm finding that a very curious thing to hear tonight.
Well, we're we're just trying to coordinate the use of the green with other, I mean, we didn't say anyone owns it. We're just trying to keep everybody happy.
Okay, yeah, good
So
luck.
Josh Moore here, I don't know if you can see me,
It's over here.
okay.
Oh.
It's sorry, trying to figure out, okay. So I'm the pastor of the Red Door Church in town. And that's one of the challenges that we have as a church is we don't own any parking, except maybe 3 spaces behind our building. So we're kind of dependent on the community thinking for us when we're meeting. And so that's kind of what we're raising our hand about and saying we feel like maybe we weren't remembered in this moment. That's kind of personally what I'm feeling a little bit. Because we don't have any parking, we don't have a lot, there's nowhere for us to park, so. When the community plans events that potentially will draw a crowd. Especially on a Sunday morning, which is really the primary time when we meet as a fellowship. We're dependent on people to kind of think for us, so that's all I'm trying to say.
Well, hopefully with the, getting the word out to the vendors that, try not to park in front of the church and letting your people know that if they get there on time, should have plenty of parking. Hopefully that'll solve the situation.
Yeah, we, absolutely, we're not, in any way upset, we just want to say we're still here, and we're dependent on the community to think for us, that's all, so, because that is we don't have meetings throughout the week, we have little gatherings, smaller gatherings of 8 or 10 or 12 people that will meet. But Sunday morning is our big time to meet, and so we're just dependent on the community to keep us in mind, that's all, so.
And we definitely have the intention of making you feel kept in mind by like joining the market, not the opposite. So I'm sorry that didn't come across clearly, but I do think, with the vendors, it's not like try not to park in front of the church, it's like park, we're telling them where to park. So they definitely won't park in front of the church, and then
Thank you.
anyone else, who arrives to attend the market will be arriving after your services are to start, so. Hopefully it shouldn't be, and we hope that you guys will then come get some radishes.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly willing to cooperate and try to make this work, so maybe we'll see how it goes the first couple of weeks, and if we need to kind of reevaluate, we can do that, so, but we're open to we certainly want to be flexible as much as we can be, so.
And we're neighbors too, so we always, pop over or,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both both groups for coming.
Thank you, board members, for hearing us out.
You did all the work.
Yeah, that was the easiest thing we've
Yeah.
had, so. great.
I thought about rolling the chair, but I didn't think that would be real. Thank
Well,
you.
I think it'd be nice to see a lot of people on the green,
Absolutely.
on a Sunday, that would be cool.
Josh, you're gonna report back to us if it doesn't work, right?
We definitely will.
Yes, yeah, well,
And we'll go and talk to Elena as well,
Yes.
so we won't just come talk to you guys, we'll
and I'm
try and
Josh, nice to meet you.
work it out. I'm Beth, nice to meet you, Elena.
We do have a
Alita.
question about,
Alita.
with Victoria not here, who do we talk to about,
Alita.
use of the green and,
That would be me, Stuart, Professor, and you send it to Selectboard and we all get the message, we just know which ones are appropriate for who.
okay, sure.
Alita.
All right, so
I
we
mean, in the
will-
meantime, you can continue to just email Victoria because her emails are automatically forwarded to us.
Okay,
Um,
so we'll follow up with questions.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you.
See you.
Thanks.
Oh, chair.
Conservation Commission.
Cheers.
You guys.
That guy first. So first, appointments or reappointments. We've been very lax about this the past 20 years. But by statute, we're all supposed to be appointed for 4-year terms. So we sort of staggered everybody. So that not everybody is up for reappointment at once. So this year, it would be Tico Wolf and John Detweiler. And so what we're looking for is for you to reappoint them for a 4-year term.
And you're okay with that?
Absolutely.
And
Please, they're both,
and they're okay with that.
excellent, yeah, excellent, trustworthy, long-term members.
Are the, is the list in the town report current or,
Yes,
or on the webpage?
Oh. on the webpage,
Webpage, yeah, that's the
town
one.
report, no,
Town report, don't worry about it. Yeah, on the webpage,
on
there's
the
a,
webpage, I corrected it.
okay, good. That helps.
And if you want, what I could do is put expiration dates like you guys are on the town report, if you want.
I don't think that's really.
I'd say do it, it'd be good for us.
Ideally, me or someone would remember to come every year, or at least notify you and say, can you reappoint?
Okay,
Or not.
well, if you don't tell us, we won't know, so.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint these members of the Conservation Committee, Tico and John.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of appointing Tico and John, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Reappointed.
Excellent, thank you. Next is the bylaws. I sent you guys.
Oop, hold on, someone's,
Oh, Joe, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to point out, Brad just mentioned that you don't necessarily, or he didn't think you had to put the dates in, but in the past, on the planning commission, we had years of confusion because the dates weren't correct. So if you want them to be correct, they should be in the town report to be referred to every year. It's just a good idea. We had an issue where actually a previous town administrator to the select board thought they were 4-year terms, I guess. There was something that happened. And so for a long, long time, they weren't correct in the town report, and we kept trying to correct it, and it wasn't happening, and it's just good to get it done right. Thanks.
Good idea.
Yeah, and on that note, if you notice something that's not correct, it's easy to correct, so bring it up.
Yeah, I think, potential difference is like, with you guys, you're elected. We're appointed. We can do that. So next is the bylaws. We rewrote them, just so the language is clearer. They more directly align with Vermont state statutes. Just kind of a rewrite. I don't think there's any major policy changes. And I don't know that you need to approve them. I don't even know that we need them. But we just did it sort of for our own clear mind, I guess. So I sent that draft out. Maybe it's a week or so. Hold that.
Yeah, so I don't know that we need to take any anything on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want them posted, or you can post them.
We've never posted them. We just sort of use them for quorum at a meeting. That's about it. And then, there's a what's the word I'm looking for? A way in there to get people off of the commission if we don't feel they should be on it.
it includes the scope of the jobs and the roles, like the clerk and the chair. Nothing really exciting to me.
Yeah, I think that's more than most, if not all, the other committees.
Yeah, could you do that for a few more other
Yeah,
places?
I'd say
You do that for us? No, it's very similar to the one last year that you sent us to.
Last year.
Yeah, was there? Oh, I thought we got the same, a similar document.
There's a few months ago.
Oh,
The one
right.
before this was maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, I thought
I
it
got
was
that off my head, I not really know what it was.
I'm,
So next, let's Greg to talk about various grants and.
Yeah.
And updates.
So in the last 2 years, the Conservation Commission has put in for 3 and got awarded 3 various grants from numerous programs that are run by the state. The one that I'll not really talk too much about today was a $1,200 grant to install trees that would ultimately become a food forest at the Fox Dam parcel next to the Fox Dam Bridge. About 30 trees were planted last year. Some cherry, some black walnut, various apples, pear, American chestnuts, and possibly some quince. Those are trees that we're just still managing, and hopefully they grow to a level that they'll be able to fruit. When they are, that will eventually be fruit that will be gathered by the community garden and, distributed through the food shelf that the Red Door runs on Route 14. But we're still a couple years away from that. The 2 that we're really here to talk about tonight are grants that were awarded by the Vermont Urban Community Forestry Program. In the fall of 2023, we applied, and in the spring. Yeah, and in the spring of 2024, we were awarded $5,000. That would be applied towards conducting an ash tree inventory and developing an emerald ash borer preparedness plan. As I've said before, this committee a couple times before, the emerald ash borer is an invasive that's basically just jumping from town to town in the state of Vermont and will eventually, eliminate somewhere between 80 and 95% of all the ash trees in the state. As such, towns are taking actions to, take preventative action to address this, because as these trees fall, it's gonna be a problem. They're gonna hit roads, they're gonna hit houses, they're gonna hit power lines. Anywhere that Green Mountain Power has a right of way, they are responsible for those, but as for our road easements, public squares and buildings, we are responsible. So with $5,000 that we got through that grant, we got 2 deliverables through Red Start Natural Resource Management out of Randolph. You guys should have been forwarded copies of those if you have been mailed to the town, but if you need, my bag skipped me,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
opened them, actually, so there's
Oh,
a couple copies in here.
I can hand them to you as well. Sorry, my bag is killing me.
still bad. Oh,
Oh, no, I'll tell you after. But there are 2 documents here. The thinner document that's just 8 pages in length is what's called an ash tree inventory. Essentially, Red Start drove several of the major roads throughout town that we are responsible for, meaning not state roads like 14, but instead roads like Royalton Hill Road, Back River Road, Chelsea Street, Dairy Hill. You can see that they're indicated in the map on the back as well as within the document itself. It basically says where we have a large number of ash trees so that we can be aware of it. It's just an inventory of them. It doesn't list every tree, but you'll see there's a table on one of those pages. I think it's also in the preparedness plan as well. And it indicates on various roads, the ash trees that were counted, the estimated number there are per mile. For example, Waterman Road, 1.9 miles in length, 170 ash trees were counted. Royalton Hill Road, 4 miles in length, 270 ash trees were counted. So it just gives us an idea of where our ash trees are, so that we can, be aware if we have the monies to take preventative action. Preventative action can mean inoculation, can be an attempt to sort of save the trees, but it's a very expensive process that most towns tend to forego. What's more likely is towns ultimately decide to fell these trees in advance of them becoming infested and dying. If a tree gets infected, it's typically dead within 1 to 2 years, sometimes taking as many as 5. The reason why that's important to know is the cost to take down a dead tree can be significantly more expensive, as it is less predictable, there are higher risks, and as such, you will be charged more by any arborist to bring it down. The second deliverable that we got from them is the Emerald Ash Borer Preparedness Plan. This much larger document not only contains the information from the, what's it called? Previous survey, but it basically goes over details about how to spot the ash borer, when it's likely to show up, the nearby towns that it's located in, and various persons that might be involved in the process of being alerted to the presence of the emerald ash borer, as well as the steps that might be, needed to take action regarding it. It talks in here about the price of inoculation. It talks in here about the cost of felling trees. It talks in here about what to look for, what trees might be more at risk, how quickly this could become a problem. But sort of the biggest takeaway is it basically tells us where we have these trees, what kind of problems they might present, and what kind of actions we might want to begin taking. The select board should be taking a look at this, basically with an eye towards assigning future funds for preventative removal of these trees. The cost to take down an ash tree varies between $80 and $3,500, depending on its size, its location, and a number of other factors that are outlined here. So as such, the select board should start thinking long-term about whether it wants to apply funds for preemptive removal of these trees before they come down on their own, because they will. Now, that said, we're not looking at every ash tree in town, we're looking at ones that are within the town's right of way. These mean trees that might be around our parks, which there are not many, if any at all. More likely it's on our roads, and you can see from that one table which roads tend to have the most. A tree that falls in an emergent situation, depending on its size, is gonna be more expensive, it's gonna be more disruptive, and so, what the select board does with this information is up to them, but the Conservation Commission ultimately urges them to consider putting funds towards the preventative removal of those trees. Any questions about this guy before I move on to our second one, or anything to add as well, Brad?
No. No, I mean, part of that expense might be traffic control if it's on a roadway and the road has to be closed temporarily.
So you got $5,000 grant for this, yeah?
Yeah, this was all paid for by the state, so we were not out of pocket at all here in Royalton, so this was paid for with grant money.
Well, maybe what I should say is, none of these grants required any sort of match, right? They're all just.
Yes, these were all unmatched grants.
Right, but you still have some money left over to do the actual, some cutting.
Get into that in a
Oh,
second,
okay.
yeah. But that $5,000, of the $5,000 we were awarded there, in total, we spent, I think, I have the exact numbers enumerated somewhere, around 4,000, like 857, so we almost went to the full extent of the grant. And all of that money was reimbursed, there were no expenses to the town at all. Any other questions? Cool. So as a follow-up on that, this past winter, so in December of 2024, I'm messing my ears up, it's okay. It's been a long day. December 2024, we applied for another grant through the same program, the Vermont Urban and Community Forestry Program. This was a grant for roadside ash removal. It was offered up to towns who have developed a survey or preparedness plan, but had not yet removed any trees, which we qualified for, having just recently completed the survey. So we applied for that grant, and we were awarded ultimately, I believe we're one of 4 towns that got this, $8,000 in unmatched funds for removal of ash trees within the town easement on Royalton Hill Road. So we have basically been given $8,000 that we can use to remove trees on Royalton Hill Road in the section between, I guess you could say it called the north end of Davis and the south end of Davis, which is also Four Corners or Johnson Hill Road. That grant, if you guys wanted to see the actual proposed document, there's 2 copies that I have here. Basically outlines a total of $8,000 worth of funds that we could then give to an arborist for the removal of as many trees as possible. Within that, and that was the proposal that we had submitted that was ultimately selected, it outlines the various steps. At this stage, we have identified the section of road. Actually today, I walked that road with Dan Healy, our county forester. He's the new county forester. And we tagged just with some tape, trees that we believe would be a priority. We estimate that somewhere between 50 and 30 trees would be able to be removed with these funds. There are some what ifs I'll go over in a second with all of that. And ultimately what the next steps will be is a site visit by Vermont Urban and Community Forestry, who will come out and look at the site. They want to make sure that they're actually ash trees and that we're cutting down trees, not saying, yeah, we definitely cut down trees and used your $8,000 for that. Afterwards, we would ultimately be contacting all of the adjoining landowners, because while the town has an easement, the trees do belong to them. So should we fell those trees, they have a right to the wood, should they want it. So the homeowners will be contacted, the landowners will be contacted, so they know about the scope of the work that's gonna be completed. Ultimately, Vermont Urban and Community Forestry will help us put together what's called an RPF package, which is basically a package to solicit bids from local arborists. They would basically come in and, you know, offer up how many trees they believe they could remove for that amount of money, you know, how they would go about doing it, when they would go about doing it, and us with the select board's help would ultimately select one of those arborists for the removal of those trees. There are some other intermediary steps, but that's sort of the scope of the work that would be completed, and it has to be done basically by June of 2026. So right now, we're in still the earlier stages of that process. Should the town wish to allot additional monies to that, it might improve or increase the scope of the project. You know, it's obviously cheaper once you already have them out there to take down more trees than to have them come out again in the future. But if those funds aren't available, we'll obviously just use the grant funds that we have been awarded. The only real questions, aside from, you know, in the future deciding who we would, you know, whose bid we would ultimately accept and when this work would be conducted, is ultimately what we want to do with that wood. And Brad will speak a little further to this in just a moment. One, if the landowners say they want the wood, it is their right to say, I want to keep this, because they own the land, we just have an easement on it. So if we fell an ash tree and they go, that's my wood, I'm gonna chop it, I'm gonna season it, I'm gonna burn it, it's theirs. If they don't want it, the question then becomes, what, if anything, does the town want to do with it? I believe, though I'd have to double check, we do have the right to fell them and leave them in place if it's a wooded area. Alternatively, we have the option to, you know, take that wood, and if it's good cordwood, or if it would be good to have a sawyer take it apart, sell it. Another option would ultimately be to collect that wood and utilize it in a town wood bank, which would be essentially free wood for people with heating needs in town. Ultimately, what that looks like can go in a couple of different directions, and I know Brad's gonna speak in a couple of moments about a local wood bank that we're looking to possibly partner with. But at this point, do you guys have any questions about the $8,000 grant for roadside ash removal?
Yeah, did you, I know you counted trees and everything, but did you find infestations?
So we haven't found infestation yet. Infestation exists in Sharon, it exists in Tunbridge, it exists in Stratford, along with several other towns in our proximity, but no one has reported it yet. Walking with Dan Healy today, we saw some indication that could be the ash borer, but nothing that was definitive. We saw some areas where there was bark that appeared scraped away. There's a term for it, if you remember, Brad, I think he calls it bleaching or something. It basically is indicative that like animals are going after the emerald ash borer in the tree. And then there's also another term.
It's kind of a sign of woodpeckers, but whatever woodpeckers go.
Yeah. And then there's another term referred to as epicormic branching. Basically, when a tree is ill, it'll start sprouting like small stemmy branches from the lower parts of the trunk in an attempt to kind of like survive. And we did see that on 2 ash trees today that looked like they were in a state of distress, but having just the one indicator isn't a sign that it's the EAB. So we don't know for sure that it is here yet, but it is in 3 adjoining towns.
So do the bugs hop from tree to tree, or do they fly like any distance, or?
This time of year,
Yeah, they hop from tree to tree. They also fly significant distances.
up to 2 miles.
So is it up to 2 miles?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that is actually
I still
detailed in
maybe
the early
don't
parts
transport
of,
them. For
Right.
firewood or whatever.
Yeah.
Else.
and some people speculate it is likely already in our town. We haven't seen it. And we have been told time and time again by arborists, by our county foresters, this is coming. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
And I haven't read the report, but it's probably in here, is it 5 years, 10 years?
Until it's here,
Well, until it's trees. Yeah, until it's something we have to actually do something about it.
so the fact that it is on towns on three sides of us, mean it's likely already here or will be here in 1 to 2 years. A tree that's infected can be dead within 1 year, so it's a pretty fast acting pest. So we will very quickly find ourselves, dealing with this problem. All of these ash trees, well, the statistics I read range from 80 to 95%. Dan Healy today said it's gonna be all but 3% of the trees. 3% of trees will survive. The other 97% of our ash trees are going to die and are going to fall.
Joe, is your hand up or are you just?
No.
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 Now, the good news is walking with him today, the ones that fall that are angled away from the road, not our problem. The ones that are close to power lines, Green Mountain Power is responsible for, not our problem. But there are several other areas where they are going to fall into roads. And the question is, do we want to deal with that when it's an immediate and emergent problem? Possibly like, after a big snowstorm in the middle of the winter, during mud season, or do we want to do it when it's cheaper to remove them? Small ones, road crew can probably deal with, but those bigger trees are probably beyond the scope of what they'd be able to deal with if they were to just fall in an emergent situation. Happy to answer any other questions about it.
97%.
Yep. And it felt very real
If
walking
you don't
around.
believe us, you can check the 20 other.
No,
states.
I unfortunately
Yeah,
believe
come
you.
to us already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bleak, and when I walked around today and saw how many of the trees are ash, it's sad. I mean, there are plenty of areas that don't have any ash trees, there are some that have some of it, but there are areas where it's a lot of our roadside trees. We are lucky that none of them are really near our town buildings, in our town squares, in our downtown. It mostly tends to be on, our town roads, typically a little further up in elevation.
There's a couple out here.
I saw that, it said Waterman Road had a high density.
Yeah,
What about any around the dump? Did you guys look around there, see if there's
you mean inside the dump's property itself? I do not believe that was actually checked as part of it, no. But it is also something that we could either ask Red Start to do or possibly have volunteers from the Conservation Commission look at. We do know what ash trees look like, so I'd be able to go out there and take a quick look.
It sounds like you're more interested in them falling and causing damage. Not just falling in vacant property here.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that are in like our town forests, there's no reason to fell them preventively. The only ones that are really of interest to us are ones that are gonna fall and be disruptive. Whether that just be to blocking a road, or ones that might fall near people's homes, or near other, areas of concern.
I was just thinking
Park
that
after
the
the-
dump
anybody
would be,
park.
it would be nice to, if we would obviously have to clean up that kind of. Those kind of trees if they were gonna be at the dump, so. Be nice to,
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at that. But in this case, we mostly just surveyed the roadside ash. And the map, actually, if you look at the packet on page 12, indicates the roads that were checked. And the color coding indicates the density of the trees on a per mile basis. Green being the lightest, 0 to 15 trees per mile. Red being the darkest, 121 to 303 per mile in terms of their density. So you can even see on a road like, say, Yee Hill, you can see there are sections that don't have that many ash trees, but the part that's north of Russ Hill has significant density there. And I'd be happy to come back in the future if you guys have additional questions, once you're able to fully go through,
Yeah.
the preparedness plan.
Ted, do you have a question?
Yeah, if you take the tree down, the ash board still there, wasn't it?
So what? After you take it down?
Yeah.
The ash board is still what?
Is he still there, still living?
If it's.
Oh, yeah, we're not, this is in no way going to stop the ash borer from spreading. So the idea here is just, the ash borer is coming, the trees are gonna die. It's about whether we want to risk trees falling unexpectedly, if we wanna deal with the disruption of trees falling, especially large trees falling, when we might not be able to immediately remove them. You know, smaller trees, if they fall, they're easy to move. Some of the trees that I saw today, these are monsters. And when they go down, it is gonna be hard to move them. So those are the ones that we should be, you know, prioritizing. We don't have to go out there and chop down every single ash tree in town.
Sounds like the bigger ones might be the easier targets, sort of.
Yeah, but they're also the more expensive targets.
Yeah.
Just curious about inoculation. If you inoculate a tree, is that 100%? It's not gonna get it?
It is not 100%, and you do not inoculate them once, they have to be inoculated multiple times, I think it's biannually.
Every 2 years is basically what you're saying.
So really, unless you're looking at a, you know, a tree that's on a town green or on school property or somewhere else that the town would really have an interest in preserving it.
We're looking at one on the corner of Windsor and Karen Circle. Right, is that gonna be one that maybe we wanna save because it's sort of a street side tree? Or there might be others, but
Yeah.
you know, something like that.
So that's only, those are only like special interest or legacy trees.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You need to hire someone who has a special license.
And there might be property owners that have trees that they wanna see, you know, kept around. I might be upset to find out we're interested in possibly felling it. Whether or not the select board would wanna pay for an individual property owner to be able to maintain an ash tree would be, you know, obviously up to you guys, because it can be expensive and it's a repetitive cost.
Okay.
Okay, next topic. Wood bank that Craig alluded to. So there are some various wood banks throughout the state. Whose basically mission is to take donated firewood or logs and cut it up and split it and distribute it or leave it for people who need that wood. And so there's one in Woodstock called the Upper Valley Wood and Food Bank. That I spoke with. They're very interested in partnering with us. Especially, you know, with this potential project of us potentially having a fair amount of firewood available. And they would manage it. They would provide volunteers to do it. They would prefer that and they distribute to Royalton and Sharon and Bethel and other towns around here. They would prefer that we have a lot here in town. Rather than truck all our logs to Woodstock and then having to truck them back to this area. So that's an option. I guess. My ask is, would you, and I haven't asked the manager yet, but if he's, you know, if he's okay with it, would you be interested in getting a little presentation from him about what they do? I can talk a little more in detail if you want, but,
And sort of add what Brad's saying, the question, like I said, becomes, what do we do with the wood when we fell it? If the landowner doesn't wanna claim it, we can leave it where we drop it, or we can take it out. And when we take it out, it means we're either selling it, using it ourselves, and I believe the town garage said they have no interest in any of the wood, or we're making it available to residents in our town who might, you know, benefit from having that sort of assistance, especially with a lot of heating assistance at the state and federal level, likely not being at the level it's been at in the past. But the two issues there are, one, we would have to incorporate into our bid package the cost of moving that cordwood to whatever site we select, but also having a site we select. Is there town land we would be interested in using as a staging area for that wood bank? As they've said, you know, we currently deliver to Royalton residents. It'd be great if there was a site in Royalton where that wood would come from, where they could store wood. Just to make their lives a little bit easier, because they currently operate within a 30-mile circle, 30-mile radius outside of Woodstock, which is their main location. And it's not something we have to decide today, but it's something we need to start talking about today.
What's the rule say about transporting? Is it 50 miles that you're not supposed to transport for firewood?
I believe it's out of state.
Yeah.
I heard it on the radio.
Yeah, they can't take wood to go camping and in-state. Plus,
It's-
not just out of state.
yeah, I was thinking it was either 20 or 50.
Okay. Whatever, we keep it in town.
But in this instance, it would either be wood coming from Woodstock or wood from within our town. And I do know that, it's gotta be at least a somewhat sizable distance, cause I know that there are grants available through the state. Last year when they did some forestry projects, on the Camel's Hump, they were donating wood to wood banks all over the state. So at the very least, I know wood from that project on the Camel's Hump went to Woodstock as well as Craftsbury, where there's also another large wood bank in operation. And keep in mind what Brad said, we would not be managing this wood bank. We would more or less just be providing a site and potentially volunteers. We looked into the possibility of creating our own wood bank. It is something we could do, but there's a lot of steps.
I was gonna say, sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
and we talked
you would
about,
need a manager.
Yeah.
And I do not raise my hand for that.
You can just leave wood and say, hey, come get wood if you need it, and
Well, then.
leave it right there, cut it
then
out,
the issue,
chop
and
it up.
this is part of my next topic is about the branches and twigs and leaves.
Chipper.
Easy to say. But that takes some,
Yeah, I mean, so,
I mean, for the ones that we're gonna fell as part of the project, chipping those branches will be part of the bid package. But in the future, as additional trees fall, we do have to decide how do we manage these things when they come down?
no, that's a really good point. These are the things that we should be proactively, we should talk about that.
Yeah, I'm currently eyeing a grant that existed last year that offers two groups that create wood banks. Last year they gave like $875,000 for chainsaws, for splitters, for chippers and all sorts of other equipment. I don't know if it's gonna be made available this year, because a lot of grant funds are drying up. But if that was possible, I would look into perhaps applying on behalf of the Woodstock Bank in hopes that maybe our site could get a chipper or something else, but I don't even know if that's gonna.
So when you say we provide a site, is it just like a log landing and they bring a splitter and a chipper in,
I think so.
or?
That is our hope, and I think those are the kinds of questions that would be able to be answered if we brought him into a future, what's his name, Fred?
Brian Farrell.
If we brought him into a future select board meeting.
Okay.
It'd give us, I think, a much clearer picture of what we can do.
I spoke with him on the phone and emailed him a couple times, but, certainly didn't get all the nitty gritty. Other than, he would be very interested in partnering with us. For those reasons. Like, personally, I think it could be mutually beneficial.
And I think anything that helps our residents is worth doing.
But I do think, whether we do this wood bank thing or not. We do need to think about someplace that we can bring and store whatever ash trees we can't leave. On site.
Gotta do something with them.
Yeah. Do you guys wanna work on that, on the conservation end of things? I'm sure you already are, and then like, give us some options?
In terms of sites,
Yeah,
I mean, there are,
thinking about,
yes, what,
Are all the
we
trees,
would need to know what. What properties the town owns, which I don't have.
are all the trees marked? Have they all got a spot of spray paint on?
none of them.
Just,
The
just
only.
whatever he did this.
The only marking that was completed on any of these ash trees, even during the survey, is me and Dan Healy tied blue tape on Royalton Hill Road, mostly towards the intersection with Johnson Hill, around trees that would be prioritized with that $8,000. Basically, we know that with that money, you can fell somewhere between 15, 30, maybe at most 40 trees, depending on their size. So we taped those for two simple reasons. One, so that we'd be able to identify the adjacent property owners, so we can get in contact with them. And two, so that we will, in the future, be able to conduct a walk with the people from Vermont Urban and Community Forest. And have them marked for, the bid process itself. Because ultimately, you're gonna have competing bids, and they're gonna say, I can take down, trees 1 through 20. Someone else might say, well, I can do 1 through 25 for that one. And so those are tagged for that purpose, but it is not.
Selling them to loggers.
Well, that's an option that we can have. I mean, but we wanna try and sell the wood after the fact is one thing.
Well, if you have them all marked, a logger can go through and give you a price, what you would pay to take them down and, cut them up.
Well, from my understanding, I'm not sure that anyone's gonna pay to do all of that work. Will pay us to take them down and take them
Well, it
away.
depends on many trees, what their value is. For you talking about a big tree. That might be a value to a logger unless it's hollow on the inside or it's rotted.
Yeah, I
And then
guess,
you've got the top of the tree, which you can cut up and for firewood.
yeah, I only explored it as far as, the grant outlines that we would be, ultimately paying a cost to have them felled.
Well,
If you
do that.
believe,
If a logger would cut them, why would we pay anybody else to do it?
if someone wants to look into whether or not a logger would pay to take those down, they absolutely should.
Well, I think you mark them and then you ask for bids. And let a logger come in and take a look at them. And tell you what they'd give you for them.
I mean, somebody can definitely do that. As far as I'm concerned, I'm working on this grant that will ultimately, we'll be using this money to fell some sort of amount. I don't have the time or the resources to mark every ash tree that we have. And then start communicating with loggers and going through a bid process at the select board. Once you take that on, I would definitely encourage you to do it.
I would think that would be part of the RFP.
It might be. And again, they're building the RFP for us, or in conjunction with us. So I'm sure if there is someone if there are trees that somebody would pay to take down, they would probably know. As they're the ones that have the expertise, and they could probably tell us, someone will pay you for that tree. But I am no means an arborist or an expert in any of this. I never wrote a grant in my life before the one last year.
And you got it, so you did what I'm gonna say.
My number is 215-962. 8995.
All right, well, as this moves forward, and we get closer to actually felling trees, maybe having a conversation with the Woodstock Wood Bank would be helpful.
I mean, I can contact him. Again, with your permission, I can contact him and say, are you willing to come and talk with our select board? So
Yeah,
some evening in June or July.
sounds good.
Okay. I have just a couple more quick updates. These are just for your information. We already mentioned we have a new county forester, Dan Healy. We've met with him a couple times. He's gonna walk with us pretty soon. Through the Crawford lot here and talk about the next stage of the management plan. We also still have plans to mark and cut some more trails, a loop trail, going down to Mill Road. And if one of these days, we'll organize a trail work day to kind of clean up what we done. That's Crawford. Sarda, right now the trails are not accessible because they're doing that battery storage construction. Next to the solar array.
Oh,
So they're kind of taking over that parking area, which is not ours. And because of all the construction going on, it just would not be safe to walk through there. We have a right of way access, but it's not, there's no trail, it's not clear right now. We can talk more about that if you want to, but, they have said, and this was through Victoria a couple of years ago, once they complete the construction, they don't mind people walking through there. But right now, the solar array is here, the building is here, the way we access the trails is in between. So they said, once it's all complete, it'll be fine. You can park there, walk
Do you
there.
have any clue how long that's gonna take?
No, I didn't even know until I drove up there and looked at it and said, oh, they're doing something big here. And it does look,
So we have a right of way through there, but the solar panel folks actually own the,
we have a 50-foot right away from 107 up, basically up the left side. Part of it is the road, and then the road kind of curves to the right. If we keep going straight, right now it's all treed up into the woods,
that's our right of way.
until we get to the town property, which is
Okay.
up the outside. Um. Greg mentioned the fruit nut trees that we planted. I don't really have anything more to say about that, other than we, mostly him, keeps an eye on it and does some maintenance around the trees. We are gonna do a work day, maybe next weekend, putting up some deer browsing, fencing, and weed whacking around the trees and clearing and stuff. And then the last thing is the White River Partnership has asked us to adopt one of the river access sites in town, and so last week we agreed we would adopt the Avery's Rock access site, which is down towards the Sharon Town. And that just means we'll check it, do some light maintenance, keep in touch with them. And that's all.
Okay, so adoption doesn't commit us to anything more than,
No, I think it's a beer, but
okay,
I think we should move,
yes,
7:30, swap 7:30.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, I know, I see Ian is here, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Ian.
Thanks.
Ian,
Good work, keep the grants flowing. Get some more money.
I'm here. Sorry, that took me a second to get the mute and video back on.
yeah, no, I get it, no worries. Yeah, we're gonna jump right to you now for the teller update.
Yep. Yeah, no, perfect timing. I just got off the Sharon Zoom. So, I emailed you guys earlier too, just so that way it's in writing, and copy Jacob Mayer. And yeah, and Jerry Barcelot cornered me earlier just because I think he knows like about the finances and concerned with the road stuff. So where we're at, Jacob's had some hiccups with the, rain and the weather and everything's pushed him back weeks. And then him and I were just looking at the calendar the other day and just trying to, what date makes the most sense to say, let's start it. So it's a full week that he can give it his all and coordinate a crew to work with him. He's targeting July 7th. I know that is a ways out there. But anyways, he apologized and then, wanted to make sure that John really had the money in hand, which now, to circle back on that point, John ended up, not going through with the revolving loans from the town, and he was able to get the balance of the money. Like I said, like in it, I mean, I don't see his bank account, but as from what he said, he had, the 50,000 to go forward right now, and then needed the other 30 between, to cover the rest of the cost of the construction, the engineering, and get it all closed out with any contingencies. So anyways, he secured that extra financing, and from what he said, it was going to be in his account any day, almost what it sounded like. And then anyway, so that's where we're at. I know it's not the date we wanted, but I mean, I can't also deny that the weather this season has sucked too. So
No, it's been challenging for everybody, but so is that a hard date then, a pretty hard date, that July 7th?
that's what I would like to think. Yes, it's a hard date. I mean, same thing. Jacob needs to just plan for it. That's his week, and the notices or whatever we want to do. Obviously when we get closer, but that's the week that he needs to make it happen. So that way, same thing, to make sure it's all buttoned up, closed out, and we can get all the certs and make sure that the state's happy before that drop dead deadline of, I can't remember if it was August 28th or August 29th, but they wanted it closed out with all the paperwork and everything done by then.
That's the state date, that the state wants it done by that day. Is that where?
Yeah, yeah, that was from Megan.
I mean, their certifications and all their paperwork.
Yeah. And I've been communicating with, I think, a Megan, I want to say Kane. Yeah, Megan Kane with the state. She's on
Yeah,
the
and
compliance.
what's happening right now with the sewage?
Well, I mean, it's bubbling up to the surface, and it periodically John gets it pumped, and periodically it overflows. I think what it's been in the past, I don't know what you guys have done in the past. That I'm not 100% familiar with. I don't know, you know, I think in the past, like John stayed in touch with either Tim or Dave Barker, and they'd be like, okay, it's time to get it pumped again. So that, and I don't know what that interval was. I can't speak to it, but I know they have pumped it a few times, but
It wasn't on a set schedule, but it's something that we definitely had to remind him to do it. But I think this sounds like it's already better than it has been, as far as if he's doing it proactively. But it may need it again when the project begins.
We could have Dave come back in and
Check it.
check it, talk to him.
We could, if we have to.
When do you want us to have the road crew ready? Or how do you want to communicate with that on that?
great a question. Yeah, I would double check. I did talk to Jacob about that, you know, whether it's that Wednesday or Thursday of that week. So whatever, I would just have them on, you know, tentative for that. You know, whether it's the 16th or the 17th, one or the other, you know, that gives Jacob a time to get through, you know, probably just leave it, barreled and coned for whatever it is Tuesday night. And then, you know, stay in touch. If it's, you know, do the culvert work that 16th or 17th, and then Jacob can wrap up whatever he's got to do the 18th, and, you know, then just back to daily, whatever, efforts to keep the traffic flow past the road closure effort.
Ian, are you talking to Demi?
I haven't in the last few weeks, but I mean, I can if you want.
No, I just wonder who's doing the liaison between the town and you.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk to Demi when we get closer, just to make sure that, you know, he's got everything he needs, and that's the plan. And I don't see, you know, it's not. I that's what I would anticipate for the schedule with that.
We still have to clarify with Peter too, that the neighbor, because of that culvert that drops into his property.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
What do we have to do, Ian?
You mean for the town, for the culvert, or?
Yeah, what do we have to do? You know, what do you expect us to do?
Oh, I think that we had all discussed there last time that your plan was like, you know, come in whichever day, if it's that Wednesday or Thursday, and you guys are going to, so Jacob would have the new sewer in that's under the effective culvert now, have some sort of dewatering or pump around going, or, you know, a temporary bypass to get the gravity from the stream, you know, put some sandbags and stuff to get it to run into that existing culvert. So then the day of construction for the town is you guys are going to saw cut, you know, so that way to keep the trench tight. And so that way you don't end up chasing the pavement through Anderson's driveway. And then, you know, just dig that culvert out, and then drop it in, patch pave your part in the driveway back, and then then Jacob would complete his work and finishing the road reconstruction in the trench patch for the sewer line.
So is Demi going to, I talked to him about doing this. So is he going to, he's going to dig it out and then your excavator is gonna dig through to put the pipe in, and then the culvert goes on top of that? You know what I'm talking?
No, I guess I mean, so what Jacob would do is he would probably cut the culvert now for where it goes over the sewer line and either bypass around it. He's going to dig under and through where that culvert was, backfill it to the grade, you know, for you guys to bed the culvert from, you know, the septic trench to Anderson's. And then Jacob would then come back and connect on the culvert, or I, you know, that whatever that little bit of footage is, or, you know, we'd have to talk it through with Demi if it's, you know, Jacob providing that piece of the stick that goes over that, or, you know, getting into the nuts and bolts of that. I just want to get the two of their heads together, I guess, really.
So are you putting the pipe in? And then you're digging the trench, you're putting the pipe in, and then Demi's coming and doing what?
The culvert from the septic trench to Anderson's.
Okay. So Demi's gonna dig that part across the road then? Or are you digging it?
I presume Demi would be taking it, because that was what we were trying to discuss and understand, like for the costs and stuff, with it being the
Yeah,
town culvert.
These guys are probably gonna do the first half, is the way I see it, because they're gonna have that pit open. And it's from there to the Andersons that needs to be culvert, needs to have a culvert.
So after you put the pipe in, Demi's gonna put the culvert in,
Right.
okay.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, no, I got it. You look confused still now.
I mean, it's just gonna take coordination,
Yeah,
because it seems like Demi's gonna have to be right there
And what?
and cooperating with
Yeah.
Jacob. When Jacob gets to right up to that culvert, then Demi digs out the culvert. And Jacob's gonna have to run his line. Then the culvert gets put in.
Yeah.
And the road's gonna be shut down for,
that one.
you know,
For the day.
yeah, for the.
Okay. So I mean, if July 7th is a hard date, I would suggest maybe starting that conversation with Demi now, just to be sure. He's all aligned.
Yeah, it's probably good. Yeah, make sure that there's no, like, you know, three other guys on the town crew. I don't even know how big our town crew is right now. Make sure, like, you know, he doesn't have a bunch of guys on vacation that week, or, you know,
Yeah.
something random too.
Right, or that he's gonna do some heavy ditching that week and.
I mean,
yeah.
what we really should actually all go, we should go there, somebody from the select board, Demi. Jacob, you, I don't know, one of you guys, I don't know what kind of pay scale you guys have, but. We should meet there and also be talking to Peter Anderson, because we can't just. Dump that culvert. You know, it comes out at a really weird spot on his driveway, so. That is going to be a little bit tricky for. Demi to have to deal with that. And it would be nice if we all were on the same, you know, knew exactly what was happening.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'll check with Demi and get Jacob in their schedule, and we'll just
I would think that Larry
see if one of you guys are available.
I think Larry Trotter should be there. When it's happening.
Okay. And coordinate with Larry.
Perfect,
He'll be back next week.
yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks for the.
Thank you,
update.
guys.
all right, new hire updates. So, Ryan starts on Monday. June 2nd. which is next Monday.
Nice.
Zoe did accept our the offered position, although the negotiation went to the higher end of the pay scale. And she will also start on Monday. So it can be busy times around here.
Are you gonna be here?
I will be here on Monday. You know, that's part of the B, which is training is. You know, I can be here, but. I can't train anybody, so what the plan is for getting these people up to speed, I think we need to consider.
Okay.
I mean, Zoe's not gonna need much training, really.
She's gonna have to comb through all the stuff and
She'll have to go
just
back and go through
familiarize
this.
herself.
She's gonna have to go through the stuff that's sitting there now and just. And get it straight, but she knows how to do that.
And she and Brian can sit down together and do a lot of digging through things. That we could talk to Victoria and see if she's got a Friday, we could pay her to come have some time with Ryan. I know she has some half-day Fridays if her kids are
Yep.
still in school and she's got the half day, she said she'd be, you know, possibly willing to do that maybe, so that would be a great thing at the end of that week if we wanna see what we can afford to give, you know, or pay her. I think it would be worth us.
I think it would be
If
well
she's
worth it.
willing
half
to
day,
come in and
yeah.
talk to Ryan as much as possible and Zoe. And we can start sorting through these emails so that I don't have to look at all those emails ever again. Or all of them all at once. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, that packet that she left with all her projects going on. He'll have a lot that's a good start for him to be looking through everything, combing through stuff, meeting people. And then if he could have Victoria for a couple hours, I don't know what any other, those are my thoughts.
Well, he's gonna have all week I mean, she's only available on Friday.
Yeah.
So. It's. Very little questions by them. And it may be phone call too.
Right.
I ask a question?
Oh, there's Rita.
Yes,
Yeah,
you may,
she will
Rita.
know. That's a good idea. We'll talk to Rita.
Have you guys ordered a computer for her?
That's my item next.
Oh, okay. I'll shut up.
No, that's.
No, please do, Rita.
What else? We'll have Rita deal with this all week, right?
The desk, are you gonna move the desk out of my office into Victoria's?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, where is she
That's-
gonna go?
That's what office meant in that.
Ah, yeah,
item there.
physical.
I'm out of here.
No, Rita, stay.
You're in charge, Rita.
We do need to get another computer. And is that through all access to it?
They're all access, have them set it up with the network.
Do they supply the computer or do we have to buy it and? have
Oh,
them say-
we buy it from them.
From them?
That makes it easy.
oh yeah, it does make it nice.
But you ought to let them know. It may take more than 3 hours notice.
Is that
Yeah.
something Rita can, or who? You would call them or email them? to put an order in?
Somebody would have to. Have you ever dealt with them?
No.
Rita? Are you still there? Should we ask Rita? Can she do it?
Yeah, I can do that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Okay.
And I'll
computer.
stop in tomorrow morning or. Or I will stop in tomorrow at some point and we could chat a little more about it, Rita, if there's more questions about the computer.
Okay, yep,
You know, I'm thinking another laptop, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like that these days.
everything's like that.
yeah.
And office space, we put them together in the office that's marked financial manager and select board.
What's this little room out here full of
That's
stuff?
the planning commission and.
Planning Commission, Conservation Commission, Emergency Management and
It's a storage room for all that stuff.
Recreation Committee.
You mean it's just it's all our storage
Well,
stuff, all our.
It's our only,
Our Emergency Operations Center also.
Yeah.
For the radios.
It's not suitable for a person in there.
So if you take that away, you take a lot away.
it's our
We
only,
can't share the room.
no, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm proposing.
Well, let me
That's-
figure
That's
that.
a pretty big room, yeah.
And I think that's what it was intended for, that's why the sign says finance manager and select board. On the little placard. We just have to
Right,
physically,
so,
we have to physically move,
Move the desk.
Is there a chair? Did you find out if there's a chair? I don't get the right,
Chair and
Yes.
lap.
okay. So. We'll find out what else is needed.
and we're probably gonna have to get another phone in there.
Why?
Well, if you get a call for one person and not the other, then
Hmm.
have to switch it.
Yep, that's key communications. Then have to come and program it.
Um,
I guess I could ask Walter, maybe we can move the desk, before the end of the week, he and I. And then, I mean, and once I get there, they may,
we couldn't get into, we could have done it tonight, if we had thought ahead, but.
well,
Oh, well.
we're not exactly sure, like, they may get in there and say, you know,
Yeah,
like,
they
maybe
can do-
Ryan doesn't
yeah.
wanna sit right in front of the door.
Right.
And so he doesn't wanna sit in the corner, maybe they want
Mhm.
stuff in a different spot.
Okay, and, what about Vermont League of Cities and Towns? Do they have a training? Do they offer a like onboarding for administrators? They might have a little program or something that he could, or at least he could meet up with some of those folks.
Or
do
maybe
a
they have
Zoom with
training
them.
videos, how to be a town administrator.
Yeah,
They
maybe.
do.
Yeah.
They've got something.
Would-
And maybe
would
we can
somebody
just
like
give
to-
him,
Would somebody like to poke around, see if the LCT has something specifically like that? Interesting.
maybe we could, give him a little, if we could come up with a little week-long sort of things for him to be looking at, like that's one of his jobs is to go watch that training stuff from Vermont League of Cities and Towns, obviously get acquainted with, the emails coming on. But if we just had a couple of other bullets for him to be, so that he could feel like,
I mean, he could spend a day or two just wading through the emails and.
right,
you know, making lists and then
Yeah, exactly.
calling one or more of us just to run
Yeah.
through them and then making more lists.
I think there's plenty that he will be able to be busy. But you're gonna be here on Monday.
I'll be here on Monday. Can you reach out to Victoria and see if she is available
Sure.
that following Friday?
Yeah.
And we can get the deets. Like when she could be there, or
Mhm, okay.
when she could be available, you know, even if it is the phone thing or.
Do we wanna have a select board meeting like with him sooner than our 2 weeks away or no?
What would you like that meeting to do?
See if he has any questions for us.
Don't worry, I'm gonna give him your phone number. If he has questions for you.
Yeah, I guess we can just email, yeah,
He will only have been in for that 1 week.
yeah, yep,
Before
okay.
our next meeting.
And we talked to Kate about coming in to do this for the next
For the
meeting.
next meeting,
Anyway,
too, so
right, so
Ryan
that
can
he
just
can just
so
observe.
Ryan can
Yeah, I
just
think that's a
observe.
good idea.
Yeah.
That was smart.
Any other thoughts? We good?
I guess we're good.
All right. Invoices, Chelsea Street project, invoice, not what I thought it was, so we can pass that over for the moment. Powers. And Powers is the attorney that we use. He sent us an invoice for $647.40 for work on the, right away for the Broadbrook project, not the bridge, but the slide.
Uh-huh,
And we also will need $250 for the permit to the state to do that work.
200 and what?
$50.
What works that?
Stream access.
The stream access, so on the, you know, the slide by Chris Noble's house, Broadbrook, where it's just like one and a half lane now, has been.
Where the bridge is,
No, it's beyond the, so if you cross the,
bridge, you go up the hill.
go up the hill and, yeah, and
And it's on the left.
well, the slide was on the left.
If you're going towards Barnard on Broadbrook, the bank went into
Yeah.
the brook.
I know where that is.
Yeah,
And there's one, and so
Yeah.
it took out like, you would have just,
It's an 80-foot slope
Done.
down to the brook, and
So what are we doing there?
we have to get a permit from the state to
for
get into the
stream
brook,
alteration, yeah.
to set the stones at the base of the slide, and then they're gonna build from there until they can get a lane wide enough to put a road on. And then they're gonna knock the top of that bank off,
Yeah, they're gonna cut that,
above the road,
right,
that gets sloped back.
and Chris Noble's property, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna cut that bank back and slope it up.
so those were just invoices specific, so the power.
Because Power $647.40 for their work, and then there will be a separate check for $250
Why
for
are,
the stream alteration permit.
I'm just curious, why aren't they part of our warrant?
We don't know.
Why aren't they just part of these that we are invoices? Why are they separated out on our agenda?
That's a good question.
As opposed to all the other invoices that I'm looking at right now.
Because they weren't forwarded to me like Victoria used to do.
Okay, so
Okay,
then we'll just skip over all this invoice talk and I'll just forward it to Victoria.
okay.
I mean,
Okay,
to Rita.
Rita.
To Rita. Ooh. All right, thank you, Rita.
Okay.
Check your inbox.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, check your inbox tomorrow.
Yeah, but
Um,
now they're gonna wait 2 weeks to be paid, so.
Oh,
What's that?
do they
Well-
need to get paid before 2 weeks is up?
There could be our select.
We could, if we approve them right now, Rita, does that make can you sign the check?
I don't think we do it that way. I think you prepare them and we come in and sign them if.
Yeah.
That's what-
The only one that I would really. That we'd really need to expedite would be for the permit, just so they can get that submitted,
Okay, well then we might have to,
so,
Yep, get them to me and I'll do them.
okay.
And that we can do with we don't need all of us to sign it, right? If we authorize the chair to sign those.
Yeah.
Then we only have to have one person come in the office.
Okay. There's a motion,
I make a motion, we authorize Patrick to sign the. Application for the streamwater permit,
including the check.
including the check. Well, I agree with sign.
Rita
Yeah.
signs the check.
Alright.
Second that motion?
Okay. Any further discussion?
That's a place for him to, that's a place for Ryan to really get familiar with this Broadbrook slide, because that is.
That's the next big project.
That's a big project that has a lot of money with it,
Yep.
that goes with it, and
Yep.
that he needs to have his.
Yep.
Hands on and know about and know the dates of that, so we can get our reimbursements and
All
whatnot.
those in favor of authorizing me to sign the permit and getting the check issued, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Lucky's, it wasn't an invoice, but we were sent around, and then this is just really a point of information. That I wanted to make, and it underscores. Some stuff. That we need to keep doing or start doing.
What was the?
So we got,
That's what it's about, what was the bill?
the bill was,
One,
it's maintenance from.
yeah, for how
From
much?
the Dimmick Group, well. The grand total is, $3,130.60. And it's in the emails, it's from Dimmick Group, which I'm assuming is Lucky's, so, right? That's the. Is that the corporation name?
I don't know that for sure, maybe about this.
But there's stuff in here, there's like $900 basically for an oil change. Coolant and wiper blades. Like, so why are we paying Lucky's $900 for that?
Cause it's a big truck and that stuff is expensive.
No, but why aren't we doing that in-house? Why aren't we changing oil in-house? We have a waste oil furnace at the town garage.
Yeah.
That we could be using our own waste oil on. And. If Lucky's forgets to put the sticker in the window. And there's not a log book. Noting all of this maintenance. How do we know what's done when? And what we're paying for?
Well, yeah, that, question.
Yeah, cause the maintenance budget is blown out of the water this year. And I understand that some of that is unavoidable, but I think some of it is avoidable, and I think. Some of the avoidable bits are that we're not managing it. It's not being managed. Cause we really shouldn't be managing it, but it's not being managed, so.
I agree with you, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, there's no action for us to take right at this moment, it just,
I mean-
this thing came in and it struck me that we're paying $900 for an oil
Yeah.
change. When we've got guys that are very capable of maintaining their own trucks.
Yeah.
On that level,
It's a good filler on a rainy day.
Yeah.
Too.
so, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but
Well,
just,
but that is, I won't harp it because I entirely agree with you, but we should be proactively pushing forward on this subject because
Yeah,
before
yeah.
winter,
and that's why I brought it up, just.
Yeah.
To to keep it live, and I know we're working towards that. We have an immediate crisis or two, but this is not one I think we should let slip, so. Roadside mowing, yeah,
Oh, that was me.
well, you, yeah, you,
We got a,
Yeah, we got an email. And, but be above the email, I would like to know when roadside mowing is happening for the Chervil and whatnot, for how are we being proactive about dealing with that, all those, weeds before, last year they were all went to bloom and spreading all over the place before any mowing happened, so there's all that Japanese knotweed. I don't know, it just seems like it should be cut down before it
before it flowers.
flowers and spreads, or,
yeah, well, you start now, it's still not gonna get done in time.
no, and that's
mean,
what
the
I was,
stuff is, I mean, the stuff is so pernicious, I think that we'll be hard pressed to always get all of it before it flowers to stay ahead, but whether that's a consideration at all is a good question.
yeah, I would just like to know if that's even on our. We're not, again, not managing anything, we're not,
So this isn't about the actual request, which was,
which I was trying to get clarification on, I mean, you read it
I
too,
read it too,
and you read my
and
response.
I think people say, they don't want their road mowed because they're afraid of spreading the weeds, so we usually comply by saying, don't mow this section, and
Well, it also-
down.
I mean, it also kind of depends on there's safety considerations, because sometimes
You can't see.
you can't see
Yeah,
around a bend or coming out of the driveway unless it's
Yeah.
mowed.
and you also don't wanna hide things in the weeds that people might hit with their car if they happen to go into the ditch or whatever, but, I just think we should be.
And I don't even know what road she was on, do you know her,
It was
that's what I asked.
Last week, I can't remember that.
I don't know.
But we have on opt-out requests before people say, I don't want you to mow it, so you're gonna spread it, and the road crew doesn't do that.
But that needs to also go, if we're gonna do that, we're gonna say it's an opt-out request, then it has to be forwarded to the town garage so that they hear it.
But I don't get it, so if it got cut earlier, it wouldn't spread it, but if it gets cut later, it does spread it, right? Or is that, I don't know.
It all
That way.
spreads it.
What's the
What?
email talking about?
I said it all spreads it. It doesn't matter. But I
There's
want to,
no way not to
Oh,
spread it.
Jojo has to say something.
may I say something about roadside mowing? In
Yeah.
the last 20 years, the roadside mowing has been so sporadic and irregular that what needs to be done, in my opinion, is it needs to be done to the same degree every year. Sometimes it isn't done for 3 years, and then sometimes it's done in a way that makes it really shocking to people because it seems like it's overdone just because it hasn't been done, and everyone goes, oh my God, did you see what they did? And it just needs to be done the same every year. That's the deal. Same every year. In my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah,
The request was that somebody wanted to know when they were gonna do roadside mowing, and they wanted not to, I assume it was, they wanted not to have their property mowed because they were afraid of spreading the weeds. But there were new people to town, so they were just kind of asking more about what happened. I said, well, you're at it. I don't see it here. It must be in one of the messages that didn't,
it was the original email was 5/21. Joanne, Andrew.
It's not their property, it's the town right away.
Yeah,
Don't, you don't, you don't mow the person's property, you're just taking care of the town right away.
Well, in our case, we're not taking care of our town right away, so. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what we're,
Do we hire somebody to do the roadside mowing, or are you expecting the town crew to do it?
I would expect our town crew to do something like that, wouldn't you? I'm not.
I don't know, I was hired 2 or 3 years to do it,
Oh, really? Oh, okay,
but
I-
if you're,
Roger McCrill has done it for the last 2 years.
Roger has, yeah,
Yes, yep,
so we hire him to do it?
yes, yep. And
But
he's waiting,
But he uses our equipment?
yes.
you used to put an ad in the paper and say, if you had a bush or something that you didn't want touched. Because it was special, like a lilac bush or something
Yeah,
like that. Then you tied a red ribbon to it, and when the roadside mower came along and saw the red ribbon, you went by that. And there weren't very many people who did it, but one once in a while would put something out like that. A lot of it, the roadside mowing is, the trees themselves have limbs that grow out into the road and you have to cut them off. So when I did it, I did 4 passes on the road. And if you do 1 pass or 2 passes, you don't get them. And they're a problem in the winter when there's snow
Yeah.
and they come down and trucks break their mirrors and lights and things like that. So with roadside mowing is really important. I believe that we should do 4 passes on each side of the road. And that takes care of those high limbs that need to be done. If you only do.
You do the high limbs with the deck and everything?
Yeah, it goes right up in the air and you take those right off.
And I would like to make a comment.
Yes.
Great job. Got back where it should be, got back to. When you go down the road and your mirrors hit the trees, I
Yeah.
don't like it.
yeah. Well, those are the types of things that, yeah, it would be nice to have some consistency, like JoJo's saying, and like.
But
Do
if
we have a contract with Roger right
if
now?
Roger does it, he knows exactly what to do, so.
He's still on our payroll to do it.
Oh. Okay.
Well, I guess we'll have to ask, Demi, what, you know, I'm sure they're in contact about that.
No, but it does beg other questions, like if Roger's on the payroll to do it, is there a certain amount of hours that Roger's allowed it every year, or how does that,
Right.
you know? Is that,
With me, it was. As much as I could get done to get through all the roads. Usually was
so when,
anywhere between 35 and 40 hours a week.
wow,
I was out early in the morning and I didn't come in until 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
so when, just for reference, when you did it, Bob, was it like, oh, that was a seasonal job?
Yeah,
Every springtime.
no, I did it in the fall
In the
usually.
fall,
Yeah. August
and-
through October,
August or October, so
Yeah.
like 3 months.
maybe November, kind of what the weather was.
Okay,
But I was late, but see, I was actually late in doing it.
yeah,
The roadside mowing should be done all summer and just taken care of. If you let it grow all until the fall. then
yeah,
You have a lot of places there's obstruction. I remember one year, going up, Sherlock Road. The brush had grown right out into the road, half the road had a bunch of brush in it. And I mowed it all down, took care of it all, but it'd been like that all summer. And it was only one car could get through.
Well, so I guess I'm gonna bring this up right now again, is that,
Okay,
because it's all tied into that, this is that idea I had of having a road committee. I would really like to actually pursue that. To have a group of people who were sort of had their hands on our roads, who really knew it, just like the conservation committee, just like, you know, we have other committees doing other things, but a committee that is dedicated, they know some stuff about equipment and about, you know, ditching and whatnot, you know, maybe they have some experience building and excavating and whatnot, and they can sort of take a little initiative on checking out roads and sort of then coming to us and saying, Sherlock Road has a bunch of brush that we need to deal with, or the culverts on, you know, Johnson Hill are shoddy and need to be replaced in the next 5 years.
so you see this committee as something that reports to us. So then we can decide what to filter down. to the
Yes,
road.
and they say, we're looking for gravel pit, we're in, this is part of our life, we do it, I mean, I already talked to Dylan McCullough as one person in my head, because he was so, you know, he was so passionate about North Road, and that's an asset for us, for somebody like Dylan to be willing to come in here and really like get involved in a way, but doesn't want to be on a board that meets regularly, but if they met even 4 times a year, I guarantee they would come back and give us good information, or be like, yeah, this is what we find that would be, we advise that you hit the roadside mowing starting in, you know, July or whatever it is. I'm just thinking of, or the grader is looking like we only have 5 years left on it. You need to think about blah, blah, blah. And I know we have a road foreman who should, you know, really be proactively doing that, but it's also like, it's a lot for one person, and I just think if more community members were involved and had vast experience, years of experience dealing with trucks and gravel and whatever, I think it could be a beneficial thing for the town.
What Barnard has been trying to do, is more like a neighborhood watch kind of thing, where they're saying there's a committee that monitors the roads, and the road foreman doesn't have to drive the road every day. The
Mhm.
people in the community will, you know, it's not gonna
Okay.
be everybody calling them, but
Right,
the committee will say, you know, what's the condition of the road
Yeah,
today, especially
yeah.
during mud season. when it
Yeah, mud
changes
season, yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they can say, hey, there's a spot over on Broad Brook Road that needs
Yeah.
attention, and that way they get that information firsthand, rather than having to go out there, waste half the day driving out
Yeah.
there and find out that the road's fine, and then they go look for another problem, you know, and this way they've
Right,
got things that are gonna focus their work. I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but
yes, that,
it's part of it, it's
Yes.
part of, you know, because it can be anybody, it doesn't have to be people with excavator experience, or, you know, being able to grade a road, it's just, you know, you monitoring the conditions. So that might,
yeah,
that's what I heard of, when we were talking about a road committee.
yeah, so, I don't know,
Can we get back to the schedule here, so we keep moving?
well, we already took care of Broadbrook permit, right?
We did, rubber permits
Check
done,
that right off.
so we can. You wanna go to all the extras now, and then we'll do Academy Building after,
Sure, whatever.
all right? So the salt thing,
salting, in your email, there's a notice from VLCT that says the Vermont, Buildings and General Services is opening up their contract to any town that wants to buy the state using the state's contract. And what they're asking for is, if we're interested, we sign up and we'll get, we don't have the pricing yet, but they will let us know. And at that point, we decide whether we wanna be in or wanna be out. We spent $48,000 on 550 tons of salt last year. So it looks like we have some numbers that we can give them as far as how much salt do we use and see what they come back with as far as price goes. If it's not a good price, then we stick with the company we've already got and use the method we've already been using, which is, looks like we have a fixed price all year long. I don't know if we negotiate with them for this, or if that's just salt prices don't change like everything else does. It may be different this year too, because this was last year. We know what it's gonna be, but this option to go into the salt contract is up. You have to get it in by June 6th. And in an online form, all we gotta do is say how much salt we use and do we wanna find out more information? And I think it's worth looking into.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
And I will do that if we wanna go that route. Or,
I don't think it can hurt.
yeah, well,
I mean-
we're looking,
That's right.
we're not agreeing to anything except that we wanna be informed.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if the scale of economy, leveraging the statewide contract wouldn't yield some money savings.
Yeah, well, everywhere we can, I think we should do that.
That's great.
And this is kind of the same thing I was talking about doing with the fuel earlier in the year,
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
consolidate all of our
now's
fuel.
now's gonna be the time to negotiate for a fuel price, and
Yeah.
maybe we can come up with a deal. And this one's kind of handed to us, so I think something we should look into.
Great,
have at it.
thank you,
All right,
thank you.
the next one is this driveway permit. I think the person who's asking for information, and I don't mind giving them the permit application because I'm not gonna work off an email. Let them fill it out with the map and all the information they
Yeah.
need.
I think that's really all they were asking for is what's the process, right? So you send them the permit application.
I'll do that. Okay, the next one is Honko.
Uncola, so I got to the bottom of that, I don't know if you remember last meeting, there was that mystery request by Uncola to
Yeah,
put up the building right in town here.
Mhm.
Wanted, was asking something about reimbursement for
Right.
the sewer hookup, and we were like, wait. So what he really needs is he needs a letter from the town saying that they were required to do that, and then they can get reimbursement from their insurance company. Which is true, we did require it because when they dug it up, it was teed illegally or improperly
yeah.
into the other one, so.
So Simon probably put that requirement into place, yeah? Jeremy,
Yeah, that's actually,
we could just
Good
have
thought.
him, right?
all right, I'll
write
call
that
him,
letter.
I'll get a hold of Simon,
Or you can just
Here's the right
give
letter.
it to Ryan.
Give it to Ryan.
Here's your first
Here's
assignment.
your first assignment, yeah. Okay,
I mean, it sounds like it's not a thing that has to be done this week, is it?
no, but probably, yeah, that'll be fine to do next week. But you're right, that's a good one for. Street sweeping, haven't heard back, sent in our acceptance of. Their proposal for the street sweeping, but we don't know when it is yet.
Okay,
Okay. And then
When they've scheduled us?
when they have scheduled us.
Okay, we don't know their dates yet,
No, but I can follow up, I can call them.
okay.
and what about?
And then when we do, we're gonna lock them in for next year too, right? And set a date, and have
Okay.
them put it on the calendar for May, early
Because we want
May,
it- we want it
because we're gonna
before.
repaint before, yeah. Okay.
So that's a good note to self. And the painting, I believe we were going to have the. Go and see about having the town crew do, no?
I talked to Larry.
Uh-huh.
And I went up and saw the road crew, and I told Demi that the board had voted for him to do the crosswalks. Said he didn't wanna do them. I said, Demi, you work for the town, you'll do them. And I said, the town has done them in the past. We should have all the stuff. I would. He obviously didn't wanna do it. I said, if it dries out, I want you to start those crosswalks. So, I'm not sure, I don't know if he knows where everything is, where all
Right.
the,
Well,
but Roger.
Yeah.
Roger used to do the crosswalks when he was a road foreman. So, I think we should give Roger a little extra money and have him supervise the road crew. And he's done it in the past. So if they're new at it, he would know how to do it. I mean, we gotta order paint, we gotta have,
I mean, do they still have the stencils or whatever?
I
they
don't know,
use?
we're gonna,
Yeah,
Is that something Roger wants to do?
I don't know. But he's the one that has done it in the past, and he'd probably willing to do it.
I mean, why are we paying someone to supervise?
Well, because I think it's one of those
I hear ya.
things, it's just
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
things that. Probably Demi doesn't feel comfortable even in doing it, but he definitely doesn't wanna do it, but I told him he had to do it. I don't know where he's at with it, but at least Roger might be able to help him get the stencils and the paint. And the stuff that they need to do it with. And I expect him to do it as soon as the road.
well, we want it swept first, or he'll be painting.
Yeah, that's why we were trying to line it up with
Yeah.
the street sweeper.
Well, they can sweep it with hand brooms if they have to, just push the dust off.
And they can get the stuff ready.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
just so they know what, and I told him when I left, I expected it to be done, so. If he doesn't do it, I think we need to take an action, so.
did you have was there a date on there?
No, I told him as soon as it was raining, it's been raining all last week, I
Yeah.
said, as soon as it dries out, I want you on the crosswalks.
All right, let's see where that gets us.
Yeah,
North Road.
North Road.
There's a couple things I wanted to understand. At the sign on the bottom of the hill, it
Mhm.
says, North Road is closed. To everybody. But I
That
don't think
was-
it should be closed to residents up there.
Oh, I just kept driving. When people put a road like that, it's at the bottom so that you could go off on that side road for through traffic. Anybody going to Barnard, road's closed, go that way, kind of thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
I
the-
just,
the people who live up there need to be able to get to their home.
Yeah, that
And
was my understanding.
emergency vehicles need to be able to get up there. And what about school buses?
They apparently don't know or aren't being told what happens on a daily basis. That's the phone call I got.
I'm sorry.
Is
are you on North Road too?
they
I
should,
live off of here.
they should be told where they're working each day so that they know that they can take the kids up to this point and then turn around and go back the other way. But they're almost done with the culverts, aren't they?
Well, they're all done with the culverts. And I don't know why the
That's the
sign still
reason.
says nobody, North Road closed to
Yeah.
everybody.
That
I
was
can
the
ask
reason
Patrick,
they were
because,
supposed to be closing it was so that they could do clover.
so they could do the culvert work,
Culvert, and then everything else was gonna be a one lane
a one lane with,
crossing.
right, with.
But they
traffic
should
control.
never have dug a culvert across the whole road. Because if an emergency vehicle needs to get up there, they should have done half and then the other half.
They were supposed to let the emergency vehicles know if there were going to be occasions when they could not get through a certain spot.
Said only a couple days, but they're gonna have to close the whole road.
Right.
Yeah, but there's a sign up right now that says, Stuart, it's closed.
Well,
It should say road closed due to through traffic.
No, it says road closed to everyone. It doesn't say, they did have a sign at one point in time, residents only, that's fine with me.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
and
care
that-
if that, you know,
and
that's
that's-
okay. But this idea of closing the road down,
Right.
I understand they can get their work done a lot quicker. Because they don't have interference from traffic. But the people up there need to get to their homes and.
Yeah,
And get out of there and do whatever they need to do.
Yeah, well, that's been the expectation all along, is that the people who live there can go as far as they can go, you know, but they gotta know. You know, if you live in the middle, you gotta know which way to go in the morning or that night, you gotta know which way it takes you home. And
The people on the ends have a way. They have a way of getting off the hill. That's not a problem. The people in the middle of the road are the ones that have a hard time.
yeah, so especially if they don't know which way to go on any given day.
Yeah, and if you got culverts dug over here and then you got a culvert dug over here and you're in the middle, you can't get out, period. Now, see, some of the people can, there's a back way that they can go, but some of the people can't even go a back way. They're boxed in.
Well, now you can drive right through. I mean,
Now you can.
I
But
drove.
they have a sign down at the bottom that said. No
But a
way.
sign, who,
It still says road closed
Right.
today, it said that,
Yeah, it said no one.
okay. I will talk to Patrick in the morning to see, cause I do. You know, the other Patrick, yeah, talking to myself a lot. But yeah, that, I mean, I know. Patrick and I did talk about changing the sign for that one day when they're doing that David Road culvert. To say road closed, just so people weren't getting caught, you know. And not being able to get through, but that wasn't supposed to stay that way.
Well, and they would put. They would have a truck that they were filling with the excavator, and then in the other lane, which should have been the lane that cars go by, they parked another truck. So, and they weren't even using it, just parked it there. So when I went up, I just sat there for 20 minutes, a half hour, 45 minutes, and finally. They moved their truck. But that's not the way you do business, and it's not the way they should have been doing it.
No, I
They don't
don't
have
think that was
any-
our understanding.
They don't have any, road
Flaggers?
control, they don't have any flaggers. Pike, when Pike's working on something, they have flaggers. They have people up there, taking care of it, but.
Well, my
Wow.
understanding is when the
Okay.
reclamation starts, then,
that's
that's it, because it's waters and not like.
Waters, yeah, and Pike had the line item for flaggers and, you know, traffic control was an item they were bidding on.
Yeah,
But these other people didn't, probably, I don't know.
Yeah, and they should have, because they were doing the major work up there. And then there's still the question of the two culverts that go. Right at the houses below the road.
yeah, I was looking at those. You mean the one that dumps out into the driveway that?
Yeah, there's two,
One that goes
there's two
dumps
culverts
into
that
the
do that.
driveway. And then what, the other one I couldn't, was it the newer house that's,
It's over the bank, just beyond Lincoln Clark's. Do you know where Lincoln Clark used to live?
oh, yeah, the big white house, yeah.
Yeah, before you get to his house, there's a house that's just over, you can see the roof of the house, but. The culverts were there
yeah,
when they built their house, but they were plugged. You know, they haven't been cleaned up on that road for a long time. Those culverts were plugged. Now, they may have known they were there, but they had no idea how much water's coming down them. Now that they've ditched it and cleaned it, and now they have a regular stream coming down on their house. Right in their driveway. And I talked to Demi about it, and he said, well, after 7 years, the culvert's good, and tough luck, and I said, no, it's not tough luck. You know, they built their house, they probably knew there was a culvert, but they got very little water through it. Now they're getting a ton of water going through those culverts and coming down on their property. And I just think we should have changed those culverts, moved them one way or the other. We should have angled them, you know, we didn't, and that's where the engineer should have, he knew those houses were down there. Why would he point a culvert right in
Well,
their
because
house?
he was replacing an existing culvert.
Yeah, but if I were doing it, I'd have some respect for those people that had a house below the road. I wouldn't be dumping a full culvert of water into their driveway and into their house.
Well, and I think his assumption probably also was if it hadn't been an issue up until now, why would it be an issue now? And you're saying it's because they were plugged.
I wouldn't even know it's an issue. I wouldn't even have to go up there. I would just know that if that culvert was there and you're opening up all the ditches, you're opening up the culvert, there's a stream of water that's coming right out of there. And now I talked to Jimmy McCullough. There's a culvert that goes across on his property. And he's upset because they put crushed stone underneath it. Now, I don't know if that's a state standard. Do you know, Ted?
It's foolish.
I know, that's what he said. The water's gonna go right into the culvert, which it was. And he was at the other end trying to extend the culvert and the water was coming out underneath the culvert.
If it's easier on a culvert though, won't
Yeah.
wear out.
No water. You know, and he was upset because they put fresh rock into that.
Whose idea was that?
The engineer. And so that culvert will wash out and I'll bet you in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
But you know, some of it's a mess up there. I don't know. What the engineers said, you know, to waters, but. If I were an engineer, I wouldn't accept some of that stuff. I'd make them do it again. I don't know.
Some of these engineers aren't the brightest bulb in patch
Yeah,
with their authorities.
I think we're in trouble with it. We're boxed into it. I think we're in trouble with it. And then putting culverts in backwards. Who puts it? Who digs the culvert and puts it in backwards if that's what you do for your work? You don't do that. And what's the engineer doing if he isn't noticing it?
Well, he did notice it because he pointed out to me they had put out culverts in backwards and he had them dig them up and.
Did he notice it, Patrick, or did the people up there notice it? And tell. I know.
I can only go on the information I have.
Yeah, well,
He
if I-
said
if
he's
I were
been up
him-
there and he noticed that they had installed at least one culvert in backwards and he made them
When I was up
take it out
When I
and
was
put
up
it back
there,
in.
when I
And
was up there.
he was
Tom,
also noticing they had issues with misalignment
Yeah.
and deflection.
Yeah, there was.
That he was making them dig up and redo because they weren't right.
I said to Demi, I go. Which end of the culvert, handles the water? So Demi said, well, the bell end. I said, yeah. And I said, have you been up to look at the culverts? "Well, yep, oh yeah, I've been up there. I said. Well, did you notice that culverts in backwards? He looked at me and I said, why don't you go up and look at the culvert near, Chad Rogers? And see if it's in straight, or if it's in right, or if it's in backwards. You know, I don't understand people who know roads, who know how to put in a culvert. They don't do that. They don't make those kind of mistakes. They should do it and do it right. And, you know, and then they took out those metal culverts, you know how they took them out? They grabbed a hold of the end of them. And they pulled them right out of the ground. So you know what happens then, Ted?
Not good.
That metal culvert bends right in half. Breaks. So there were metal culverts up there that could have been reused, but there's not a chance of reusing them because they destroyed every one of them.
Those the spiral ones too,
Well,
or the spiral one,
yeah,
yeah, so you're done. Why, it wasn't that long ago, those culverts were new.
I know,
Did they need to be changed? Question.
they don't. Well, the culverts that they took out didn't look that bad, except they were bent. And they took them out because they grabbed them by the end and ripped them out of the ground.
Yeah.
Instead of digging across the top and taking the culvert out, which most people would have done, they just grabbed them by the end and ripped them out of the ground and bent them. They're all, some of them were in pretty good shape. We could have reused them on our roads. Can't reuse them now. They're all gone. And I don't know, these are guys that are supposed to know how to put a culvert in and how to take one out.
Did they check the credentials out, the contractor?
I don't know.
This first one he's ever done?
Pike hired them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pike's, so.
Yeah, the subcontractor then. Then you're gonna go back on.
Yeah.
You don't always get what you pay for.
We're not, you know, right now, we're not, and the only person.
Well, Pike's gonna be responsible for that. They have to be.
I think we're into it, and there's not much we're gonna do about it. That's what I think. And, you know, they changed that culvert, they put in backwards, because I think they were embarrassed. Those guys were really embarrassed that they'd done that. And somebody else noticed that. But, you know, they ripped that one out, and it was a brand new culvert, and broke it right in half, had to put a new culvert in.
Just turning it around.
You know, I don't understand, you know. When you watch these things happen and they're not doing anything about it.
Do you wanna meet with, John Harrington? Do you think that?
I wouldn't have anything good to say about him right now, I'm sorry, it'd be better for me to just stay away from him. But, you know, I don't think he's done his job up there, I don't think that he personally went up and looked at those culverts when he drew the plans for the road. I think he used an eye in the sky to look at it and redesigned it and designed it accordingly. That's what I think.
I'm not certain how they surveyed them.
He's right over in Pomfret, I don't think he's, I mean, he did North Road, right? I think it's I don't know, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here, Bob, I don't. But, I mean.
Well, I think we're into it, you know, and, you know, we've gotta take what comes now, I don't think. Pike's they're gonna start putting fill in up there. And, you know, they're gonna put a mat down, I guess, the whole length of the road.
Well, that's still under discussion.
Good, yeah, because I'm not sure that we need that, because that road's pretty compact right now. And I think it would be nice to let those culverts settle for a year rather than let them settle underneath the tar. What do you think, Ted?
What happens in 5 years when they wash up underneath it? Whose responsibility is it then?
Yeah,
The town's.
No, that'll be Pike, how long do we have on this contract? I mean, you have to stand up to
Till
your
we pay
word.
him, yeah,
What?
till we pay him.
Well, we better clarify that, because there's a certain standard. And we should look at John Harrington's,
I don't know.
Contract too, I
What's the
mean.
state standard? Does the state say to put fresh rock under a culvert? They don't do
Not to
that.
my knowledge, I've put a lot of men, never done it that way. Have they been compacting it in too when they do it?
Yeah, but
But if you got humps and hollows in it, doesn't sound like you're doing it right.
They'll tell you that they've compacted it, but even then. Water is gonna work its way through that crushed rock and underneath that culvert. That's right. And it may not happen this year, but it's gonna happen. And that culvert is not gonna operate, it's not gonna work.
Well, it's gonna freeze the top too.
Yeah.
Because the cold air goes up to the culvert and then freezes.
And
it up.
also those culverts are plastic.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
That's, are all new culverts plastic like that?
Usually.
Yeah.
Just seems like brittle or, like they would get brittle.
I don't know, I think we're in for it. I don't know what we do. I mean, you're a lawyer, Patrick, but, do you wanna get into a lawsuit and demand that you get this and that? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, what are the next action steps? Because we can bitch
We're
about this
supposed
all
to, at
night.
some point in time, aren't we supposed to meet with them? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, we should. We should look at it right now before it's,
Make a list of all your.
yeah, make a list.
All your
We should.
things.
I'm really concerned about those two houses that are getting,
Well, we should call John, I'll call John Harrington on those two houses. Would you please, could you tell me the mile
One.
marker? Because I know the one, I saw where I saw
one is right after Dave McCullough's farm. And that
going to Barnard.
going the other way. Going to South Royalton. And that's, Greg and Kim Barr's daughter and their husband. Who's an engineer, by the way. Mechanical engineer though. And then the other house is going in the same direction. It's just past Lincoln Clarkson's. And it's just over the bank, but they both have culverts coming into their driveway.
Okay, like at the four corners, you mean, when you're saying Dave McCullough's farm,
Yeah, that's
at the four corners?
Yeah. Going back
Uh-huh.
towards South Royalton, or going back towards that one.
Yeah, that house, I couldn't picture that house.
Yeah, below the road, their new houses have been built. Since the last road was put in,
Okay,
but I don't think. You may have, because they've been there for 7 years, you can automatically just put them in again, but I don't think you do that to people. I just don't think you do. I think you try to fix it before it becomes a problem.
no, I agree with you, makes sense. So what do we wanna do about this to make sure that we like what John Harrington has to say and, yeah, those seem like very valid things. Are we gonna, before things just keep going forward on this project, what do we wanna?
Well, I think, Jeffrey up there is a real nice guy. And,
Jeff,
but Patrick,
okay,
and he's a
The
nice guy.
foreman, the pipe
Yeah,
foreman.
he's a nice guy. But he's a worker.
yeah,
The bosses, are the guys that we talk to right here. And if they don't give him the right message, if they say. We want you to make as much money for us as you can, and you cut the corners that you can, and you get it done. And if nobody's looking, keep doing it.
well, we can bring John and Chris from Pike in for a
I think-
progress meeting.
Yeah. I mean, how soon do we have to make a payment to them? Patrick?
Probably right in this warrant that we just signed. I just signed a bunch of gravel, bunch of the 3/4 inch gravel is in in these warrants for pipe.
$7,000 payment in there, like.
Yeah, but we must have to make a major payment at some point in time, don't we? Now, I'm guessing that Waters is almost done. He's gonna wanna get paid.
Unless Pike pays them and
Maybe,
Yeah, well,
Cause
Pike
Yeah.
is, yeah.
since they're a
managed.
sub,
But yeah,
Do
we
you
are
know-
making payments right in here.
Patrick, do you know how much that culvert at the bottom of my road, right, with Dave McCullough's farm
uh-huh,
on Russo Road? Do you know how much it costs to have,
Pike do it versus Demi?
yeah, or spent, or Waters do it? You know, did they give you a price on that?
no, I only know that. Somewhere, John sent me the difference between when they changed the configuration of theirs. There's a difference in price, but I don't know that it's
Well-
broken out per culvert.
Was it a lot? I mean, to
No.
do that project? Cause I said to Demi, when I was up there that day, I said, the selectmen wanted you to dig that culvert and put a new one in. Well, I think that they should have done it. It would cost you more for us to do it. I said, how is that? We pay you a salary every week. How is it gonna cost us any more? And, he didn't say anything, and I said, well, you should have done that, you should have done the digging. We had to pay Waters to dig that and change those culverts. You could have gone up there and done that.
Yep.
And I said, it would have saved us some money if you'd have done that. And, you know, he just said, well, it cost you more. I said, no, it won't. Because we pay you anyway.
Right.
Well, there's 15,000 right here for Pike, so
You know, what's that? They would say.
I had, yeah, it's,
Oh,
yeah,
Materials.
that's
materials.
materials and.
But they're gonna, right now, the road, if you're up there, look at the driveways that are coming right out to the road. Now, think of what that driveway is gonna be when they put 14 inches of fill on top of it. Cause that's what the plan is, put 14 inches of fill on top of that
In some
road.
places, yeah.
And where's the water gonna go? If your house is on the lower end, lower side of the road, and you build that road up 14 inches, where's the water gonna go? And that's what I was talking about with Pike and Waters that night when we were talking. We kept saying, you gotta pay attention and figure out where the water's gonna go. And I'll bet you the water's gonna go right down their driveway, right into their house. What I think, I haven't seen any plans.
Well, ditching should be taking care of some of that. And that's what it's there for.
It's on the lower side of the road. I don't know if they're doing any ditching on the lower side. Stone on the upper side. So the water runs down through the culverts, but I don't think there's doing a whole lot of ditching on the lower side. I think the water's gonna be running right into their houses off that road. But like I said, I think we're into it and I don't know what we can do about it.
Well, I can reach out to John and Chris tomorrow and try to set up a sort of a progress meeting.
How do you think we're financially, how are we doing on that road so far, Pat? Patrick?
Under budget.
Yeah, under budget so far.
We are.
Ahead of schedule and under budget.
And they must be ahead of schedule because they closed the road. So
They were ahead of schedule. I don't know after last week with the rain. I think that, so I don't know if they still are ahead of schedule because that slowed it down. They lost. You know, there's a couple of days when they had difficulty even.
Yeah.
Digging those culverts because it was. It was just too wet. So if we want to have a special meeting with them, I'll, any particular, just the usual restraints after like 4 o'clock. And not on Wednesday,
Not on Friday.
not on Friday. Yes, no 4 o'clock meetings on Friday.
Not this week. Any other time, I think it's
Okay,
pretty much good.
and you're generally after 4 o'clock.
Yeah, even 4 o'clock would be okay. with me.
Okay. And now,
Yeah, I mean, should it be an onsite?
I think those guys know what's going on. You know,
As long as you know what you're.
Yeah.
As long as you know your specific.
well, I know what I know.
Things that.
I know what I know and, you know,
Okay.
and I don't know everything, I can tell you that.
all right.
I mean, they're trying to get the job done as fast as they can. Make as much money as they can.
Well, we like that as fast as it can, Art. We like that. So. All right, Academy Building. Senior center.
Yeah. Did you guys see that email?
The same as the request at town meeting, right?
Yeah.
They wanna. They see if we can. Give it the rent free for the
Yeah.
senior center.
Yep.
How does, like, I was trying to figure out what that was all about. So is there somebody who rents that academy building?
We do, yeah.
No.
The senior center rents from us. Rents
Okay,
the
it's just-
academy.
Also an
Yeah.
office upstairs.
Who rents it?
Yeah.
Who rents from us?
Right, the senior center, yeah.
And they're saying that their budget is getting cut and they don't have. Enough money to pay the rent and offer services and wondered if we can. Do it rent free for the seniors.
Are they? How big of a part of the budget is their rent, do we know?
1,000, how, is there a budget or our?
No, like, how much do they rent? They rent the academy building the most. Is that
I
right?
use it every day.
They use it every day.
Yeah.
Not every day, no. Tuesday, Thursday, they pay maybe they pay $680 a month. I think we
And
should,
and they're using it like 12 times a month. Roughly.
I thought at town meeting, the figure was like 18,000 they were talking about.
Well, that would have been annually, maybe?
I don't think it's that much. No, we donate to the senior center. And then, but we also charge rent to the senior center, so we upped the money that we, that we want, the allocations that we wanna give to the senior center. And somebody suggested we just knock off the rent too. And I think everybody would have voted for that, but somebody said, oh, we better wait and see if there's any maintenance that needs to happen, or, you know, if their money is paying the bills for this, for the academy building.
Yeah, it's gonna need to be painted and it's supposed to be about $100,000.
So would you say that $680 a month? There?
I don't know, it's,
So that's just over $8,000 a year.
Doesn't seem like very much to me for.
I think if it would help them out, that we should let them not pay rent.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion that we eliminate the rent for the senior center for the academy building.
I'll second it so we can discuss it. Yes, find out how other people feel. I personally, I think it's not that much. It's not that big of a deal for them now.
You're saying,
Bonnie does a lot with seniors and helping out.
you're saying it's not that much, I'm not sure which way you're, like, it's not that much money they should be able
We're
to
not
pay.
getting
or-
much out of it to hold it over their heads. I mean, I think we can afford to let it, be
Okay.
rent free.
It, doesn't mean that much to us, but it means a lot to them, is what I think. So I think that,
No, I just wasn't sure exactly which way you were
Right, right,
pitching.
right.
He was
Yeah.
pitching the, it's not that much
yeah,
part, but. Yeah, it's $8,000 a year and, you know, with the. Frankly, the money pit that building is, you know, in order to let the senior center. Do the work they do, I think it's $8,000 well spent.
I
Forego that.
I think it is a good thing for us to do for our community.
What do you think, Bonnie?
I think it's a good thing.
Bonnie does a lot with the
Yeah,
seniors.
they do where they work very hard and they've just recently upped their prices for people who come in to have meals. They had to raise their prices. But yeah, they do a lot of good things, a lot of, I do the Meals on Wheels. I drive for them. I'm a backup for them. They do foot clinics there, you know, lots
Yeah.
of things happen.
It's not that long, Bob, you and I are gonna have to be going there for lunch, so.
We're going there for
Yeah,
lunch.
we are.
And they have
I already can.
I just went there today.
Doing a blood drawing.
We can all go. You don't have to be a senior.
Right.
Yeah, blood drive tomorrow,
Tomorrow, yeah.
but I've got my appointment.
You do?
Yeah,
Up there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can plug. All right, sounds like we're ready to vote. All those in favor of eliminating the rent for the senior center in the academy building?
Should we put a?
For the year,
for the-
or some, or for the 2 years, or
for 2 years, or
reassess,
for 5 years, or?
reassess at another point.
Well, do you wanna do it for the, and, through the end of fiscal year 2026? Or do you just wanna knock it off completely for now? I
To
would
be
draw a motion
reassessed.
until we get.
Can we say to be reassessed at a later date? To be, or does it have to have a date on it?
Well,
I think it's a good idea to put a date on it.
yeah,
I mean, it doesn't have to be.
2
next
years?
year or 2 years. It could
2
be-
years?
We could do it for 5 years.
we
5
could,
years?
how about this? We could do it now and put it before the voters at town meeting. For.
Continue it.
To continue it.
That's a good idea.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so I
Good.
move that we eliminate the rent for the senior center at the academy building. Until next town meeting, when we will present it to
Yeah.
the voters. To decide on an ongoing basis.
To decide on the term.
Yeah.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Oh, no, you already made the motion.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've got two
Well,
motions.
so let's turn.
You
my
made an
motion-
amendment.
Yeah, I
You
made an amendment.
You were gonna withdraw your
You
motion.
amended it.
I do, but she already made a
She
motion.
had the motion.
So my motion is actually
Should've stuck up for
amendment.
you.
So let's vote on the amendment now. All those in favor of amendment, which is just for this year until town meeting, say aye.
Aye.
That passes. And now let's vote on the original motion. Doing away with the rent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
That's it.
good work.
Man, that's hard. You're just writing it down. Imagine how it feels to try to say this stuff.
Oh, I'm sitting over thinking, wait, there's already a motion.
I-
What, do I say something?
Yes, you please do, because we'll do this all night. We'll have. You're observing, so. All right,
Okay.
warrants,
All look good.
okey dokey, let's sign them, although we should probably,
Other, are we on other business?
well, we could move, to accept the warrants.
Move to it. Yeah, there you go.
I'll move to accept the warrants.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of minutes,
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes
from last meeting,
from last meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, there are a couple of things that, I only saw one typo on a name, but, you said there was another one. John Layton
Yeah, John Layton.
and Rita is, Rita Zito. And it was, something else in there.
Okay, well, tell me how to spell Rita's last name.
SETO,
Okay,
and Layton is LEIGHTON.
okay.
Yep. All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye. Aye.
We have corrections.
All right,
One more thing,
you have more in
yeah, I'm
other
sorry, I
business?
forgot.
All right.
There's an
what is it?
email from Two Rivers, there's a roundtable at VTC for the grants for the ditching that we get for our roads.
Uh-huh,
And it seems like it should be a thing that we have our eyes on for getting that money. And I don't know, if without Victoria here, I don't think anyone has,
We've gotten the grant in the past.
right, we've gotten it in the past, but we might wanna have somebody there to be up on what's going on.
And when is that meeting?
I think it's the 16th or 17th of June. Coming up. I did,
which is a Monday. 16th would be a.
I mean, it just seems like a road. Again, road foreman.
Well, the state's being cut some of their funding, I just wonder if it's affecting that grant.
Exactly, so it might be, I just. Without Victoria, we need someone to have,
What time is it?
I don't know, I'll have to dig that email out again, I just wondered. If anybody else had seen that, or if it's. If it's something that we should pay attention to and we don't have it on our radar, I just wanted to.
And this is roundtable discussion.
Yeah. So if it's something that, you know, somebody on our road crew goes to get the intel
Yeah.
on, or, I mean, if it's something that we send Ryan to, I don't know, but. If we know what's going on with that, I think we should pay attention.
Oh, by the way, Patrick, I've been
Yes, sir.
through the process of getting my email.
Oh, you have?
No
Except I don't-
way.
Except I don't have an email address. And I was supposed to get that here in the office from someone.
It should, your
Oh,
email,
it should be Bob Gray at,
bob.gray.
At RoyaltonVT.gov.
ooh,
Do you want Bob or Robert?
Bob's okay. Gray. At, what is it?
Royalton VT, all one word, .gov.
I reported on the Transportation Advisory Committee last meeting. They talked about this roundtable. I was letting you know that that was coming up, and they were encouraging somebody from the Selectboard to attend.
oh, thank you.
Stuart, does somebody have to put that in down here? In order for me-
Probably.
In order for me to
I
access
haven't
it?
done that, but, I'll look into it.
Okay.
That's not taken care of behind the scenes by,
It might be
All access.
a letter, you know, we might have to write to all access, yeah. But in.
because I thought they set, the idea was they set the whole thing up.
Yeah.
And then Bob just had to sort of activate it, so to speak.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't get was what my email,
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
so I'm all set. They actually sent somebody to my house to be able to do it.
All right, so you should try that, but you know, if that doesn't work, if you told them Bob, then it's Bob, but if they used your name from.
I didn't give him anything, because I didn't know what it's here.
But it's first name dot last name.
I bet it's
at
Bob.
sign, and then Royalton VT, one word, and then .gov.
So I'll try it and see if it works.
Yep.
Good, then you're gonna load it up with some Loaded up with the emails, ooh.
It'll overload my computer and it'll blow up.
So
6:17, 9 AM to 2 PM.
6:17,
I
9
I
AM
pulled that directly from Kip's email.
to 2 PM. At BTC. That's nice. You said that's a Monday?
No, that would be a Tuesday, I think,
Tuesday.
17th.
Wow, that's a day of it. Talking about ditching. Ooh,
I don't think it's just about ditching.
okay,
No, it's VTrans, EC, VLR, MRGP roundtable. I'll say this out loud. What's MRGP?
Are they gonna talk about funding here, grant funding? Municipal?
Road.
Grant
something
program.
like that.
Oh,
GB?
general permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's a stormwater permit, the general permitting.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so is that what you would call ditching?
Uh,
I think it's more than that.
it's more than that.
Road maintenance, so.
all right, well, good.
Definitely more than that.
So we have a meeting before that, and we don't, do we have to register for that, or is it a? Well, in any case, we have a meeting before that, so we can figure out who's going,
Okay.
right?
We,
I mean, if it is a road, if it is strictly about roads. Yeah, select board, but also, I mean,
well, maybe we
someone
can,
from the road crew, maybe, or,
maybe we can, have a peek at Two Rivers
yeah.
website, and I'm sure they'll explain it in detail,
Okay.
what the roundtable's gonna talk about.
It's about stormwater. Is that what you said?
Well, that's the MRGP, that's the general permit for stormwater, yeah. But
So-
I don't know if that's all that it's about. Yeah, it is. It's an MRGP roundtable, so. So where did you get grant funding from there? Was that in like the Two Rivers
No,
version?
I thought it was about money that we got from
No,
the
no, so it's
state.
about the general permitting. All right, well, we should definitely look at the information.
sounds like, thinking like the fair has to take care of all the stormwater off of the buildings.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had that stormwater meeting. February, maybe? Couple of us went to, right, Patrick? Was it you and me and Victoria
I didn't go.
for stormwater?
Wasn't me.
Sure.
No.
Well, it's me and Victoria then, and then. He's coming back around soon.
All right, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
You're gonna let us know about a meeting with North
Yes.
Road, okay?
Yeah.
I'll
I'll talk.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All those in favor, stand up.
Probably, I sent about the meeting with Rita and Brian about the Chelsea Street sidewalk project, and I just been sort of looking forward to tell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, the critical path is lined for creating right away agreement on.
Act in place, yeah, I know that.
And
I
of
know
course,
that's
as soon as that gets cleared, the other critical path is with the post office, whoever the post office is at the moment. And then those have to be accepted by VTrans